War rages on in New York City. Black Cat enlists Richard Parker's aid in the Sinister Six turf war, and Spider-Man gains a surprising ally. Ultimate Spider-Man, Volume 3, Issue 18. 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. 17 months ago, Tony Stark sent Peter that same radioactive spider along with a Picotech suit. Since then, Peter has used the incredible powers granted by the spider's bite to fight crime alongside the Green Goblin, aka Harry Osborn, co-CEO of Oscorp. Peter's son, Richard, took the Picotech suit for himself and bonded with Felicia Hardy, who inherited the name Black Cat from her father, one of the Sinister Six. Also part of the Sinister Six is Mysterio, an identity secretly shared by a council of five that Harry just learned includes his wife, Gwen Stacy. And while Peter and his family were hiding in Utah, Harry and Gwen declared war on the Kingpin and the rest of the Six. As the Parker family reunites with Harry Osborn, Peter Parker asks Mary Jane, "You sure you're okay with this?" Mary Jane replies, "With this, of course, I'm okay. With this, this is what you do. Besides, Harry said he had a plan to put an end to our current situation, didn't he?" Peter Parker says that he did. Harry Osborn gets off the private jet and Peter hugs him. He thought Harry was dead. Then Mary Jane asks, "You bring any babysitters with you?" Ben and J. Jonah Jameson also arrive to watch over Peter's family. Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson get off the airplane as Peter thanks Jonah for coming on the trip to watch Mary Jane and the kids. Peter Parker says Richard is back at camp. He's pretty upset that I'm not letting him come along. Ben Parker says, "And why in the world would he think he had any business doing something like that?" Peter says, "You'll see, but I think he'd rather show you guys than have me ruin the surprise." Peter Parker asks Ben Parker, "So you got this?" Ben Parker replies, "Would you be able to sleep if you thought I didn't?" Peter hugs his uncle, his surrogate father, and says, "Miss you, Ben." Mary Jane says to Peter, "Okay, so I guess this is it. Off you go. You two need a speech or something." As Peter Parker and Harry Osborn depart, Peter has one question for Harry. Where's Gwen? Meanwhile, the Mysterios meet to discuss recent events involving the death of Craven, the Hunter, and the attack on one of Mr. Negative's operations. There are five Mysterios: Quentin Beck, Gwen Stacy Osborn, James Weasley, Joe Robertson, and one whose identity remains a mystery. Each week, a different Mysterio rotates into power and an amulet is passed on to grant their magical abilities. Quentin Beck questions Gwen Stacy's actions. Gwen Stacy says, "I'd say exactly what we were meant to do." Quentin responds, "What have we been doing? Suffering fools for decades. What don't you understand? We make decisions together. We act as one, not just because it purifies us, not just because it strengthens and aligns us, but because there is no forgiveness in this world for revolutionaries and radical thinkers." Gwen Stacy fires back, "What we do is talk and then talk some more. Talk, talk, talk. Well, not anymore." James Weasley says, "Please stop acting like you're the only righteous person in the room. You only did this because of your husband to save him." Gwen Stacy replies, "That's not true. Yes, I acted sooner than I originally planned, but once the die was cast, once I acted, I tell you truly, I was ashamed that I had waited so long." Joe Robertson says, "So no regrets?" Gwen Stacy responds, "None." Then Joe Robertson says, "What an inevitable position to be in, and what a mess for us to clean up." Wesley says, "Clean up? She killed Craven. She probably attacked Mr. Negative. There's no cleaning this up, Robbie. We are at war." Quentin Beck adds, "And what of the Mole Man? He knows more than anyone else in Kingpin's circle. Has anyone spoken to him?" Weasley replies, "I have. Even if he plays innocent, he looks complacent. I don't think we have to worry about him for now. Without condoning the action leaving Craven's body for him to deal with put him in a position that's difficult to justify to the others." Joe Robinson then says, "And the Kingpin, what does he whisper to his right-hand man?" Weasley then goes on to say, "If she had not done this so publicly and in the Goblin's armor, perhaps it could have been spun as predictable infighting by ambitious lieutenants. But this This left no doubt. So now he wants us dead, and he will stop at nothing to achieve that. Quentin Beck says, so the die is cast. Gwen Stacy says, and all is as it was meant to be. All the Mysterios have spoken except one, the one whose identity is still unknown. Quentin Beck turns and says, you haven't said anything. Care to weigh in? The Mysterios revealed to be Vanessa Fisk. All the other Mysterios condemned Gwen Stacy, but Vanessa says, yes, I do. I want to thank you, sister, for being brave while we were cowards. Quentin Beck questions Vanessa Fisk and says, so you agree with her? Vanessa Fisk says, of course. Are we here for a reason or not? Are we truly committed? Do we truly believe the words? The world is a lie, and only through embracing those lies and becoming a mass of them can we truly see. Joe Robinson says, our craft is old, older than the lie. Weasley says, our power is ageless. The amulet passed from seer to spawn, one to wear it, five to share it. Quentin Beck says, we are Mysterio, and Gwen says, he says, and off we go. Spider-Man and the Green Goblin are back together, and the Green Goblin says, it feels good to be back. Spider-Man adds, it feels great to be back. Spider-Man has a list. The Green Goblin says, well, the only thing on the list right now is getting all of us on the same page. If we're going to war with the Kingpin and his friends, we're going to need some rules for how the said war is conducted. I won't have innocent people getting hurt. Spider-Man responds, well, that's not very pragmatic. Who are you and what have you done with Harry Osborn? The Green Goblin says, that's Green Goblin to you, pal, and I'm glad you're back. It's good to have a friendly voice in my ear again. Spider-Man asks, when do we meet with Gwen? Harry Osborn says, about an hour. And Spider-Man says, so we've got a little time to kill? Want to go beat up on some bad guys? Green Goblin says, you know I do. Spider-Man and the Green Goblin fight the Shocker, Hammerhead, and Vermin during their patrols. Peter Parker wants to check out his home as it clearly been lived in and is a big mess. Octavius has been crashing there after doing some upgrades. Green Goblin tries to explain to Spider-Man and says, calm down, it's totally my fault. Remember how your family wasn't protected by my protocols when I disappeared because Otto didn't know who you were? Well, with you gone and who knows what could have happened to me, I wanted to make sure you and yours were safe on a longer timeline, so I made a call. Peter Parker says, and then you just decided to move in as he points at Otto Octavius. Otto Octavius says, after I was done installing all the security measures, I figured waste not, want not. Will you please get me down? Spider-Man replies, maybe when you get back from our meeting. And you, he points to Harry Osborn, I'm not sure how I feel about this. The Green Goblin says, okay, I know you're mad, but I remembered how worried you are about your family when we were trapped. And well, I didn't want you to feel that way again. As for Otto, I had no idea. I'll get him a new place and make him return the slippers. Peter Parker says, he can keep the slippers. You made a good call too. I shouldn't be mad. I should be thanking you. It was the right decision because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. I can only do my job the way it needs to be done if I know they're safe. We return to hours ago, earlier back in Utah, back to the trailer park. They find a note from Richard Parker and Mary Jane says, Richard's gone. 1 hour earlier, Richard Parker misses his girlfriend Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Felicia Hardy welcomes Richard back to the city because she's in real trouble and needs him. 5 minutes later, Richard Parker tells Felicia Hardy, you don't have to say anything else. I'm on my way. But the Venom suit tries to warn Richard Parker, saying, I don't like where this is headed. Richard, speaking with some authority on the subject, says your parents definitely will not approve of this, especially since your father told you you couldn't go with him to help. This is reckless and dangerous. Richard Parker doesn't care and decides to be a stowaway on Harry Osborn's private jet. As Venom, the Pico suit has the power of invisibility. He boards unnoticed. On the airplane, Harry Osborn tells Peter Parker that Gwen Stacy, his wife, is actually Mysterio, and everyone is shocked. We see Venom open up a window in a high-rise and spot Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Felicia Hardy says, hey. Richard Parker says, oh man, I'm really happy to see you. But it's a trap, and Richard is confronted by the Kingpin. He is surrounded by bullseyes and a wheelchair-bound former Black Cat, Walter Hardy. The Kingpin says the language is understandable as it may be. I don't want you to be be scared. Yes, your situation is precarious, but nothing bad needs to happen here. I just need your help. Richard Parker questions him, and the Kingpin says, Miss Hardy tells us that you slipped up when communicating with her, giving away a little more each time. Certainly enough for a savvy player to read between the lines. I know that you are in a league with Spider-Man, and one way or another, you're going to give him to me. Richard Parker, heartbroken, feels betrayed, says to Felicia Hardy, how could you? I thought we were real. Were you lying? Felicia Hardy says, no. Richard Parker says, then why would you do this? Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, says, isn't it obvious? It's my nature. Next, Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 3, Issue 19.